The slap came sharp as a rifle crack in the still morning air. Dust lifted in a slow halo around the man's boots where he stood. Head turned from the blow, eyes lowered, not in fear, but in something quieter, something older. Sheriff Halbrook flexed his hand like he'd struck a post instead of a man. His jaw worked, chewing on the last of a cigar that had gone out hours ago. "You don't hear so well, do you?" he said, voice thick with heat and authority that came too easily. To him in this town? "I asked you a question." The cowboy didn't answer right away. The town of Mercy Ridge watched without appearing to. A woman paused in the doorway of the general store, holding a sack of flour to her chest. Two boys crouched near the trough, whispering behind their hands. A piano coughed out a tired tune from the saloon, missing notes like broken teeth. The cowboy lifted his head at last. "No," he said quietly. "I heard you." His voice carried less than the wind, but it settled. Heavier. Sheriff Halbrook's lip curled. "Then maybe you're just slow." He took a step closer, boots grinding grit into the earth. "I asked if you plan to pay for that horse you're standing next to, or if you figured you'd just wander off with it like everything else you own." The horse, a lean, dun-colored mare, shifted beside the cowboy, ears flicking. She bore. The marks of long miles, scarred flank, ribs showing faint beneath her hide, not stolen, just lived hard. The cowboy rested a hand on her neck, slow, calming. "I ain't taking nothing that ain't mine," he said. Halbrook laughed, a dry sound. That didn't reach his eyes. "That so? Funny thing about drifters, they all say the same." He glanced toward the stable, where a thick-set man leaned in the shade, arms crossed, watching. The stableman nodded, once, eager, rehearsed. "That Murray was stabled here 3 nights ago," Halbrook said. "Owner paid for a week. Then he disappears. Now you show up leading her like she's yours." The cowboy's fingers curled slightly in the horse's mane. "Man who owned her," he said, "died on the trail. Fever took him 2 days out, buried him myself." A flicker passed through Halbrook's expression, something like impatience, maybe even recognition, but it vanished quick. "Convenient," he said. "You expect me to take that on faith?" "No," the cowboy said. "I don't expect much." Silence settled between them, thick as summer heat. Then Halbrook stepped in again, closer this time, so near the cowboy could smell the stale whiskey on his breath. "You got papers? Bill of sale? Anything that says that horse belongs to you?" The cowboy shook his head once. "No," the sheriff smiled, slow and satisfied. "Then I reckon she don't." His hand moved to the revolver at his hip, not drawing, just resting there, a promise more than a threat. "You can walk away now," Halbrook said. "Leave the horse, we'll call it even." The cowboy looked past him then, not at the gathered faces, not at the saloon or the sun-bleached street. At the far end of town, near the stock pens, a small crowd had gathered. Not noisy, not lively, watching. There was a platform there. Rough wood, a rope rail, and on it someone standing still. The cowboy's eyes lingered, a woman, wrists bound in front of her. Dress torn at the hem. Hair pulled tight like it hurt. To wear it that way, she didn't struggle, didn't cry. Just stood waiting. The cowboy turned his gaze back to the sheriff. "Who's she?" he asked. Halbrook followed his glance, then smirked faintly. "Trouble," he said. "And soon to be someone else's problem." The cowboy didn't move. "Don't concern you." "Everything concerns someone," the cowboy said. Halbrook's eyes narrowed. "You're in no position to be asking questions." The cowboy looked at the horse, then at the woman again. "How much?" he asked. "For the horse?" Halbrook said, amused. "For her?" That drew a few murmurs from the watching crowd. A shifting of weight. The kind of sound people make when something unexpected happens and they don't know yet how to feel about it. Halbrook barked a short laugh. "She ain't for sale to the likes of you." "Then who?" The sheriff spat into the dirt. "Auction at noon, debt settlement. Husband ran up more than he could pay, then got himself killed trying to skip. Town, law says we recover the loss." The cowboy's jaw tightened just enough to notice. "That the law?" he said. "That's how it's done here." A breeze passed through, carrying the smell of sweat and horses and something sour beneath it. The cowboy nodded once, as if filing something away. Then he reached into his coat. Halbrook's hand snapped to his gun, but the cowboy only drew out a small leather pouch, worn thin, tied with a fraying cord. He held it out. "Everything I got," he said. Halbrook eyed it, then took it, weighing it in his palm. He loosened the cord and spilled a few coins into his hand. "Not many? Not enough?" He laughed again, louder this time. "This wouldn't buy you a saddle, let alone." "I ain't buying her," the cowboy said. Halbrook's smile faded a fraction. "Then what exactly do you think you're doing?" The cowboy met his eyes. "I'm asking you to let her go." The words landed soft, but they did not move. Halbrook stared at him for a long moment, then closed his fist around the coins. "Here's what's going to happen," he said. "You're going to take your empty pockets, your sorry story, and walk out of this town. And if you're still here by the time the bell rings noon," he nodded toward the church, its cracked bell tower leaning like it might give up any day, "I'll make sure you regret it." The cowboy didn't respond. He took the pouch back when Halbrook tossed it at his chest, caught it without looking, and tied it closed again. Then he turned, not toward the edge of town, toward the stock pens. By noon the sun had burned the sky pale. The crowd gathered thicker now, drawn by the promise of spectacle. Men with hats tipped low, women standing just far enough back to say they hadn't come for it. The woman stood where they'd left her. Dust clung to her shoes, a bruise darkened along her jaw. Her eyes moved once briefly when the cowboy stepped into view. Not hope, just recognition that something had changed. Halbrook stood beside the platform, all ease and ownership. He spoke to the crowd, voice rising and falling in practiced rhythm, laying out debts and law and the necessity of order. No one interrupted, no one objected. The cowboy stood at the edge of it, listening. When the bidding began, it was hesitant at first. A few low offers, testing. The cowboy watched the woman. She did not look at the men calling out numbers. She looked at the ground, as if memorizing it. When the price climbed, something shifted in the air. Greed settled in. Voices grew bolder. Halbrook smiled. "Fine stock," he said. "Strong, healthy, worth every cent." The cowboy stepped forward then. "Stop." It wasn't loud, but it carried. Halbrook's smile thinned. "You again?" The cowboy walked closer, each step measured. "She ain't stock," he said. A ripple moved through the crowd, uneasy, uncertain. Halbrook sighed, almost bored. "You've been warned. I heard you. Then you're a fool. Maybe." The cowboy's hand moved not to his gun, but to the rope rail. He untied it slowly. A few men shifted, hands hovering near holsters. Halbrook's voice hardened. "Don't." The cowboy lifted the rope free. The woman looked up now, eyes sharp, searching his face. "You don't have to stay," he said to her. She didn't move. "Not yet." Halbrook drew his gun. The sound was clean, final. "You're done here," he said. The cowboy nodded once. "I know." His hand finally went to his own revolver. Not fast, not dramatic, just certain. The town held its breath. What happened next was not loud for long. 2 shots, 1 echo. Halbrook staggered back, surprise written plain across his face before he hit the dust. Silence followed, deep, absolute. The cowboy stood still, gun lowered. No one rushed him. No one spoke. The woman stepped down from the platform, rope falling. From her wrists she flexed her hands, wincing. "Why?" she asked. The cowboy looked at Halbrook, then at the town, then back at her. "Because no one else did," he said. She studied him for a long moment. "You know they won't let you walk out of here." "I ain't planning to." A flicker of something crossed her face, anger, maybe, or grief. Then what was the point? He considered that. Then he shrugged, just slightly. "Figured it might matter to you." She said nothing. The wind picked up again, carrying dust through the streets, softening the edges of everything. After a moment she turned, walked past the crowd. No one stopped her. The cowboy watched until she was nearly out of sight. Then he holstered his gun. Men began to move at last, slow, careful, like approaching something wounded. He didn't reach for his weapon again. just stood there, waiting, and for the first time in a long while his face was not empty. It was at rest.